Hello, and welcome to the latest presentation of the Friends of History First Wednesday Lecture Series. I'm Anita Warren with the Friends of History and will serve as your host today. Today's lecture is Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky, the history of 8 plants Native people shared with the world by our speakers, Dr. Lois Ellen Frank and Chef Walter Whitewater. These monthly lectures are being provided free of charge by the Friends of History of the New Mexico History Museum and through donations of our audience. These funds go directly to support the lecture series and, more importantly, New Mexico History Museum programs and exhibits. Should you wish to donate, please go to our website shown here and click on the donate button at the top of the page. And now, let's meet today's speakers. Lois Ellen Frank, Ph.D., is a Santa Fe, New Mexico-based chef, author, native foods historian, culinary anthropologist, educator, photographer, organic gardener, and a James Beard Award-winning cookbook author for her book, Food of the Southwest Indian Nations. She is the chef owner of Red Mesa Cuisine, LLC in Santa Fe, a catering company specializing in Indigenous cuisine with cultural education and a modern twist where she cooks alongside today's co-presenter, Native American Chef Walter Whitewater, Dene Navajo. Dr. Frank has spent more than 30 years documenting and working with the food and lifeways of Native American communities in the Southwest. In 2020, she was the recipient of the Local Hero Oya Award, which recognizes an exceptional individual for the work they do to create healthy, innovative, vibrant, and resilient local sustainable food systems in New Mexico. To learn more about Red Mesa Cuisine, visit redmesacuisine.com. Chef Walter Whitewater, Dene Navajo, is the Native American chef at Red Mesa Cuisine. Chef Whitewater has appeared on numerous TV network cooking shows and appeared in many cooking videos on the Red Mesa Cuisine website. He worked on the James Beard Award-winning cookbook, Foods of the Southwest Indian Nations with Chef Frank, and has traveled with Chef Frank as part of the U.S. State Department and Consulate General's culinary diplomacy program to Ukraine, Russia, and the United Kingdom, where the two chefs promoted indigenous foods of the Americas through the culinary arts. He was one of the first Native American chefs to cook in the James Beard House in New York City and won the James Lewis Award in 2008 from BCA Global for his work as a native chef. Today, Dr. Frank and Chef Whitewater will be speaking about their cookbook, Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky, the story of 8 plants, the magical 8, that the Native people gave to the world: corn, beans, squash, chiles, tomatoes, potatoes, vanilla, and cacao. Prior to 1492, these plants only existed in the Americas. The Italians didn't have the tomato. The Irish didn't have the potato. The British had fish, but no chips. Russian vodka wasn't created until they got the potato. And the Swiss couldn't create their world-famous chocolate until cacao arrived in their country. Once these plants were introduced to the cultures of the world outside of the Americas, global cuisines were changed forever. This is a story of the history of these plants in Native American cuisine. And now I'd like to welcome Dr. Lois Frank and Chef Walter Whitewater.
Thank you, Anita. We're so honored to be here, and we're so happy to be able to present this information to all of your members. We are going to do a great PowerPoint, so I am going to start sharing and show all of you some beautiful images and talk a little bit about the history of Native American cuisine. So today's presentation is going to focus on some of the images and the history that's in our new book, Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky. We're going to focus on 8 ingredients and educate all of you on things that you probably didn't know. So first of all, Chef Walter and I really like to acknowledge that this information, this knowledge is the gift of the ancestors, that this knowledge, indigenous knowledge of these ancestral foods has been passed down from generation to generation. And food is more than just feeding the body. Food also nurtures the soul. So it's important to remember this. And a big part of what we do is you have to go back to the past to understand what happened in order to move forward to the future. So we call it going back to the past to move towards the future. So food is more than something just to eat. Food is medicine. Food is a sovereign right, and food is definitely the key to health and wellness in all of our communities, not just Native communities. So we're going to take a quick look at the history of Native American cuisine. And during my research for my doctoral dissertation, and some of this information is in the new cookbook, foods were broken down into 4 distinct historic periods: the pre-contact period, the first contact period, the government issue period, and the new Native American cuisine. So what we mean by that is we went back approximately 15,000 years and delineated 1492 as first contact with a culture group outside of Native. And then from 1492 into the 1800s, first contact with European and other culture groups. The government issue period, which going through the 1800s during the relocation period, formation of the BIA, and it's a very painful part of U.S. history. And then where we are now, which is the new Native cuisine, and this is components from all of these categories. And each tribe, each community gets to decide what they want on their tables. And we find this to be the most exciting. This is Chef Walter's an artist, and we really focus on making food beautiful. So let's take a look at the pre-contact period. It had wild foods, all types of fruits, grains and nuts, wild animals, medicinal plants, and those domesticated crops, which Anita said at the beginning of this presentation, the Magic 8: corn, beans, squash, chili, tomato, potato, vanilla, and cacao. So this is a map, and I really like this map because it shows some of the dominant foods in different areas. You can look at the Great Lakes and see wild rice, the eastern woodlands, inland, maple syrup, cornbread. Here in New Mexico, we're a combo. We've got the pinon, a little bit of bison from the plains, and chilies, which of course are the dominant ingredients in the cuisine to this region. So the Magic 8 were foods, as Anita said, that Native people gave to the world. And corn, the first and most important, goes back about 9,500 years. So it's pretty early. And it started as a grass. You can see next to the map that tiny, tiny, tiny little speck. That is teosinte, which is the ancestor for corn. And that's how corn started. And corn is called Z. It's a genus of flowering plants that's actually in the grass family. So Z maize or corn or Indian corn, all different names for this same plant. But it's important to remember that this is a perennial. And corn is dependent on man to be cultivated. It cannot grow on its own. So there's always been a relationship between Native people and corn. It is indigenous to the Americas, and it is considered to be a gift by many tribes. So corn, depending on what tribe you are, is all of these things. It's mother, maiden, sister, healer, medicine, song, prayer. It's many, 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 many things. I think corn is the essence of life. And so I've always revered it and made it and given it a special reverence because of its importance in Native American cuisine. Corn is considered sacred. And this is a picture of Calandra Dawn Willie, Walter's daughter. And corn was used in her kinalda, which is a coming of age ceremony in the Navajo tradition. So beans, second. Oh, also some of my favorite, high in protein, low in fat, tons of nutrients. They're perfect for diabetics. They're good for blood pressure. They improve your cholesterol. Oh, beans are just, we really should be eating much more of these if possible. And our favorite little bean, I think, is the tepary. This is from the Tohono O'odham and the Akmil O'odham people. It's drought tolerant and it's just packed with nutrients. Squash is now officially considered a superfood. It's high in fiber, loaded with antioxidants, rich in manganese, and manganese boosts bone strength. So it helps the body ability to process fats and carbohydrates. Butternut squash is the healthiest. So when we get into those fall squashes, you want to try and incorporate as much as possible. This is a picture of the squash poster. Squash is always divided into winter and summer. Winter, you do not eat the outside. And summer, you do. So that's a great way to learn about which squashes to eat at what time of year. Together, these three are called the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, and they're considered by many Native communities to be gifts, but what's fascinating is how they grow in the garden, and they're all interconnected. Squash needs perfect for shading the ground and preventing, keeping moisture and preventing weed growth. Corn needs nitrogen, beans give nitrogen, beans need a pole, corn is the perfect pole. They're just this perfect family and wonderful. Chilies, one of my most favorite. Look at those colors here in New Mexico. Chilies, very, very important in our history. They're full of vitamin C and help the body release endorphins, as well as topically they can be used for aches and pains and joints, etc. Look at those beautiful New Mexico chilies, red and green, which is our state question. They add flavor, they add nutrients, and they add vitamins. And to me, they're just art. Look at how beautiful those colors are. But you must remember, you don't have to eat something very, very hot to get those medicinal effects in the chili. So chilies do release these endorphins, which is sort of the body's natural painkiller. So you feel kind of good. That's why you keep eating that salsa, and very, very, very healthy. Tomatoes, I think their claim to fame is lycopene, but our Santa Fe Farmers Market has tons and tons of tomatoes, and I can every year hundreds and hundreds of pounds. I love to work with our local farmers and buy these wonderful little fruits, which most people think tomatoes are a vegetable, but technically they're a fruit. Potatoes, also cultivated very, very long time ago. What's fascinating is where corn stops growing, potatoes will continue to grow. And they were first cultivated by the Inca about 7,000 to 10,000 years ago. Vanilla, I think the biggest fascination for me here is, how did the ancestors know that this pod from an orchid would be so prized and combined with what we call the sweet sisters, cacao? So vanilla and cacao, we always see them paired together. They're quite related and used often in many desserts. We just wanted to show you quickly that wild foods also play an important part in the Native American diet, from wild mushrooms, which if we have enough rain, we can go up into those Santa Fe mountains and harvest. The pine nut or the pinon, very important in Pueblo history. The pecan, very important in the southern part of the state. And we also see the pecans being sold in our farmers market here. And a half a cup is 691 calories. This is a great source of fat. And when there was no wild game, Native people definitely used both the pecan and the pinon for fats. Chokecherry, I have them all over my edible landscape. Walter and I harvest these, use them quite a bit. And wild rice, which we do have recipes in our cookbook, even though it doesn't grow here, it is an indigenous wild rice, and we love to incorporate that and use that in some of our recipes because it's so nutritional. And then when we buy it from Native communities, we support those Native communities. This is one of my favorite weeds. It won't come up until the summer rains, but it's called purslane. It's also called verdolaga in Spanish, and delicious. Very, very healthy, hot, really, really high in omega-3s, and as well as vitamin A, vitamin C. And it can be eaten cooked or raw. We love it. Walter makes a beautiful corn salad with verdolaga in the new cookbook, and it's delicious. Cota, this is also called Indian tea or Navajo tea or Pueblo tea, also sold at our local farmers market, and very, very important wild food in this region. First contact, things were introduced once the Spanish came. Probably the biggest and most profound of those things were the domesticated animals, but also their byproducts, because Native people only hunted wild game, no butter, no milk, no cheese. Did someone try and milk a wild animal? Maybe once. And then obviously that knowledge spread pretty quickly. That mommy bison, for instance, is just not going to let you get close enough to touch her udders. Her milk is for her baby. And none of that was in Native American cuisine. But then, here in northern New Mexico, we also saw the introduction of apples that we're now famous for, peaches, apricots, cherries. I think every Pueblo has a feast, and there's a watermelon. I know also in Walter's community, watermelons prized in ceremonies, and then cabbage, wheat, wine grapes, as well as some other foods. So here you can just see some of the foods side by side with their ancestral counterparts, and they're interdispersed. So we don't undo history, but we do see that it's been changed and is changing over time. Those Pueblo pies and some of the oven bread, the fry bread, part of that government issue period. And that's where fry bread was actually born, as well as the Indian taco. And then here are some of the other foods that are introduced. But there's the famous Indian taco. I think anyone that's ever been here during Indian market buys one. I know we do, and we enjoy it once a year, but we try not to eat that fried bread too much anymore, just because of the health concerns that fried foods have. So of 574 federally recognized tribes, there are other state recognized tribes in other regions. Every single tribe knows how to make fried bread. So quite interesting in that this is now a pan-Indian or an iconic dish in almost every Native community where it was introduced. So what has happened is that during the past 150 to 200 years, what we see is that these foods have been changing health and wellness in Native American communities. So let's take a look. Here's the new Native, and this is one of our favorite areas. Many of these foods are very old. All Walter and I do is present them in a modern way. You can see here some dishes that are very old, presented in a very modern way. So, the Native diet was small amounts of meat and then adjuncted with lots of wild and cultivated foods. We can see everything from a little bit of bison to a sunflower cake. And many of you probably didn't know that guacamole that you eat all the time, or salsa, pico de gallo, is a Native dish, and it uses Native ingredients. And then, of course, famous New Mexican dish, calabacitas. This is our modern version on that. And this reminds us once again that food is medicine. It nurtures and it sustains all people. So very important. I'm going to introduce a couple of terms. Food sovereignty, which technically, Walter doesn't like this term. It's a kind of an academic term, but it basically means the right to sufficient, healthy, culturally appropriate food. But in native, it really means food security, environmental justice. It's dependent on something called TEK, traditional ecological knowledge, which is the knowledge of the ancestors that we acknowledged at the beginning of this presentation. And the fact that communities can produce, grow, and harvest their own food, but also trade or buy these foods from each other. So TEK means the passing down of wisdom through generations, through songs, stories, beliefs, recipes, etc. This is part of a spiritual, mental, physical wellness. Here's one of my most favorite it's a good visual. So cosmology just means how do you look at yourself in the world? And then all these other components, observations, management systems, past and current uses, ethics and values. It's a very native way to not take everything or cut down everything or kill everything. Really be careful and manage those systems. And then that is who Native communities are. So a good example is ceremonies. Ceremonies have always been a form of food sovereignty and a healthy connection to Indigenous culture. And so you raise the bison, you honor them in a ceremony or a dance, and then that food is incorporated. And, Europeans almost wiped out the buffalo. In the 1800s, there were very few left. So the Pueblos have reintroduced them as well as many other tribes, and they are making a comeback. Another really good example is Chicos here in New Mexico. If people don't know how to grow this special corn, how to harvest or roast this corn in those outdoor ovens, and then take the seeds off and use them, then how can you pass that information down from generation to generation? So very, very important. Culinary ash, which we use, Pueblos. This was a photo by one of my students at IAIA, Brandon Bao, and he did research on the significance of ash in Pueblo history. He's from San Felipe, Pueblo, and the ash was used, it dates back thousands of years. It was used in this nixtamalization, this treated ash corn process, and it was also used to provide strength to the wearer. So different kinds of ash come from different kinds of bushes. And the fascinating thing about the ash, it loosens the skin of the corn. This is how pozole here in New Mexico or in other parts of the country, hominy corn is made. And we know that ash, about 1 gram, which is about the equivalent of a paper clip, has the same amount of calcium as an 8-ounce glass of milk. So very, very, very important because Native people didn't have milk, didn't need milk. And we know why now, because the ash was used. Here are the 3 colors of pozole here in New Mexico, which you can still buy at the Santa Fe Farmers Market. And buying those corns help perpetuate this way of making things. I think one of the oldest cornbread recipes is piki. It's also called paper bread in some of the Native communities. And it's so good. Hard to make. And it's getting harder and harder to find because of the labor involved. But you can see a fire's lit under a stone that's been passed down from generation to generation. And then the bread is rolled. That's why it's called newspaper bread sometime, or paper bread, as well as piki. The Hopis call it piki. So Walter and I decided we were going to take some of this information and make a new book, which came out in the fall of 2023. Called Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky. We decided to go plant-based. And we decided to go plant-based because meat's really easy to cook. Many doctors and different health practitioners are saying eat less meat of a better quality. And so we wanted to see what's on the Native American pantry. So of course we have chilies, different kinds of chilies from our local farm. And then we stuffed that with ingredients and served that. There's Walter's corn salad with that purslane, those delicious buying herbs at the Santa Fe Farmers Market, and incorporating things that we can find locally as well as trade or grow ourselves for health and wellness. Sprouts and microgreens, one of my favorite things. They're so packed with nutrition. Here's a delicious Santa Fe Farmers Market arugula salad with cherry tomatoes, sunflower sprouts, and yummy pine nuts. We've done different stews, different ways of tamales without that lard so that we have a healthier way to eat this famous food. Corn puddings made with the ash, layered together with berries and apples and fresh mint. Cacao being very important. We have a chocolate pinion cake in our book and a chocolate pinion cake with chocolate sauce. So yummy. And so I'm going to turn it over now to Chef Walter Whitewater, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the other things that we do at Red Mesa and why this book was so important.
Hi, my name is Walter Whitewater. I'm Dene. I'm from a place called Pinon, Arizona, from a Navajo land. I'm Dene, and I wanted to share some image with the people and something that we do, and we work with other tribes and other nation, and to share what I've learned and to carry on the message. Anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself and what I do with food and working with herbs. Food is our medicine that we use and utilizing, and the way what I've been working with, it's just something that I realize through the ceremony that what people do. And we work with a lot of seeds and different seeds that we plant. And we use that. Some of the seeds that we use are the herbs that we use. Those are our medicine at the same time. It's our food too that we utilize with our whatever it is that we're cooking, and just something that I always love to do. And food is that's part of all art, and this is what we do with the beans and the tamales, and trying to share with others and to carry on the traditional ways with the tamales and all that too. Just something that I've been learning. Everything's just self-taught that I do, and just something that I wanted to carry on my traditional ways. And what we did with it, that's a kneel down bread that we call. That's an old and traditional food that we use and make it back into when we serve in a restaurant. That's how we serve, and just something that I wanted to educate what native food is, help to understand other people that this is the way that we use, and something that I wanted to bring in our traditional food into commercial kitchen. So that's my area, and this is what we do with our we grind the corn and make you know a bread with it, cornbread, and certain things that we use and that we utilize. And some of the corn that we use, the white corn that we make an offering, the blue corn that we use for food, and there's all sorts of ways that we utilize. And then just something that we have our dessert that we use. These are the tools that we use, and the ash Lois just talked about, and the brush that we use, the stirring sticks. There all has a teaching to that. And the winter time on the right side, and that's a winter time corn that we freeze, and that was our like an ice cream or like a dessert that we use in that way. And the corn pudding, all that, the three other things that we share, blue corn and white corn, and dessert that goes with it in between. And this is the way what I taught, and this is another way that we utilize food. What our people survive on and during the hard time is the cactus pad. So this is another way that I cook with. I believe this is very important that we try to hang on to this culture, and this is how our cactus pad salad that we use and roast with bell peppers and pumpkin seeds, and we utilize with then you can make it with jam with it too. The fruits that we use, and just regulates the blood sugar. Then I start working with other at the time that we start working with other chefs that it can become about. And that one of them is in there is Nephi Craig. He's an Apache. So this is what I do, and just something that showing that who we are, and that we work with other people. That is something that it's important that we all work together as one. And that's something that I realized and start working with other nationality that we come across, and to show and what we bring from here, and we take it there and we share the food what we use. Then from there it's always an exchange, what type of food that they have, and tamales that we use, and how. And it tells you by the ties, and some are fruit, some are not. Sometimes that we utilize that we whatever it is that we put in to make our food make it taste good, because corn is very important in my from all native perspective. Everything's important with corn. And here it is, working with students, kids, and just something that I always love to do, work with other people that to share the knowledge, what I learn, and pass it down to the generation that we need to carry it on. It doesn't matter what it is, what nation it is. My door is always open to whoever wants to learn, and just something that the way I was taught, and this is where the food took us to oversee, and this is where we were working with Russia at the time that we went there, and share what native food is, and share the knowledge, and exchange what they have. And that's a very important way of making a community come as a circle, coming together and working. Here it is that we were working all together, and just try something new, as the word is, see something different that you never taste or smell or feel, what it does to you, what it shows to other people, that people are interested, that we, whatever tribe that we are, who we are, and here it is with students. That's something that I work with, and just how they, we even down to making a plate, make the food, make it look beautiful, because that's what you can be serving to the people there. Just something that some of the stuff that we brought, and we took it over there and shipped it, and then we shared with that. And this is another way of a native from there that her and I, that we shared together, and tell a story about what type of food, all that. This is a corn meal that we use, that we make an offering, that wherever it is that we pull the plants, or before we take an animal down. That's something that the most important thing is, just something that's all about the good health, and to carry on the goodness. And that's the blue corn right there, making that the cornbread. And there's other things that goes with the herbs that we use, that we utilize. Nothing goes to waste that we use, because some of the herbs that we use in our ceremony, and when I started cooking native food, I didn't realize until I started cooking, and my late father asked me, where did you get this? Then I realized, telling me a story about it, I said to myself that, food is our medicine. That's what I called that, because, and to this day it is. I know we just want to share what they have there, what they did, and this is what that shows, and just something that we share. And they didn't have the green chili, but we used the bell pepper there, and that's the icicle that we have, the corn, and then the sauce is, with the red chili sauce, and there's something that we share. It's something that's special, that there's stories behind all that, and just something that, and even down to how you tie. The tie means a lot. It's like you have to know which is the vegan, which is others, that you don't get mixed up with. and which one is a dessert, like that. That's how we know and work with different nationalities. I think that's the most important thing. Than on the cake, the cake, you make up your own design. How it is, you cut up papers, and that's how they all come out. And each one has an art to it, and each one has that we work. I mean, you have to have a good time. You have to have fun in there too, not just to be serious. It's just something that revolves, and that's the stirring stick that we use in our ceremony. It's very important that she makes the corn with a different color, and just something that corn mush that we use in our ceremonies a lot. So that's her stirring stick, and at the same time, I'm sure she's stirring it with a good thought, and it's just a young students that we share it with. It's okay to bring into a commercial kitchen, and here it is that we work with a different nationality. And my way of cooking is that there's always the door open for everyone. There's always enough room for everyone to share the knowledge that I learned, and to share with others, because it's not mine to, and just something that I was told to share. And the younger generation that we're talking about, and just something that we need to pass down. How do you use the corn for teething and for the baby and all that? And this is just another way that we grew it as a baby. Then a child grows up, become, as they are, they grow into this way of life, and just something that if we don't pass anything down, it's all gonna vanish, and we don't want that to happen. So this is just another way of teaching others and passing it down, the knowledge. And here it is that we're working with kids. Who says you can't work with little kids? But these kids came and wanted to learn. And I think, to me, it's very important to pass down in school that they at least give something back to them. They deserve something that they can always, by the end of the day, by the end of the work that we do, they can show up to their mom and dad. Look what we did. Look what we made today. And some of just something that it brings the parents back and realizing, sometimes people forget. They get so caught into other things. Coming back to native food is just a full circle that makes everything from a kid that makes your child mix a bread, or rolling up the dough, or touching it, just something that's what I like, making a native food. That's what it does. And that's what we need to share and teach our little ones. And just something it's a very important. As the word is, if you don't share anything, it goes away. And this is back home. And my nieces, and just we teach them to harvest. What time of the morning is a good time to harvest? And then that's just the way things are. And the elders always seem to touch base with us that we need to carry on the knowledge of this way of life. Because my dad, my late father, that this is the steamed corn that we're doing underneath a pit, and that we cover with dirt, and just it takes work, but when you're going to reward throughout the night, it's been cooked and built a fire on top of it all night. The next day you open up and the sun is rising, and that's when you share that corn. And summer that we put it to make it to dry for the winter, make it to dry, some that we save for animals too, that they're able to have food, nothing goes to waste. Down to the husk, we save animals, some of the husk that we use in our ceremonies, that we use that too. It's not only just the corn, everything is being utilized, and something that we give back is, everybody gets to eat the word is, the animals. So where do we go from here? Kodosha, what do we do? How do we go about it? It's just something that we all have to work together and listen to each other and give each other some ideas, a good way of how to go about things like that, to teach the generation, those that we're getting ready for, those that yet to come.
And that's a really good question that Walter just asked. Where do we go from here? So we're going to show you guys some ideas where we go. The state of New Mexico Department of Health has some programs, and Chef Walter and I work with these programs on healthy food preparation, and we do food trainings in Native American communities. This is one way to train the cooks that are cooking in the senior centers and in the early childhood Head Start programs. So there's a movement, and we're going to invite all of you to jump on and help us with this movement. We need land. And we need clean land. We need seeds. We need farming practices. We need cooking and nutrition classes. And what that does is it revitalizes everything, cultural, spiritual, and physical connections between the environment and community for health and wellness. And we all want to be healthy and well. And we want to have a healthy planet. We want to have a healthy Mother Earth. This is our mother. So we want to try and support Native American grown and sourced ingredients. Buy from Tamaya, or buy from a local pueblo, or buy online. Go to your farmer's market. There's a native vendor right at our Santa Fe farmer's market. And then revitalize. The only way these recipes live is if you make them. So we need everybody to make them. Make the corn tortillas, make the tamales. Because I don't know if you guys know this, it takes one generation. That's why Walter likes that spiral design. One generation, 4 dots, child, adolescent, middle-aged, and elder. If any one of those dots doesn't carry on, that spiral, that tradition, that knowledge, it's gone. And when your parents are gone, Walter talked about his dad, my mom is gone, you can't ask them the questions anymore. And so we've got to ask while our elders are here and record them and document these things so that we can pass it on. Right, Walter?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so elders, very important. Younger generation, very important. These foods need to be passed down from the elders to the next generation. How to plant, where to plant, when to plant, where to harvest, how to harvest. And that's vital. And it doesn't matter if you grew up urban or on the reservation. All of this reclaiming is the same thing. You can live anywhere and reclaim it. 2 cousins, Walter's daughter on the left, she grew up on the reservation. Her cousin, Tidra, grew up urban in the Phoenix area. And this is a really good quote from Tidra. She says, when I'm around native foods, it always reminds me of grandma's house because that's what I got to eat when I would go back home. Now I'm trying to learn the importance of making the same food for myself and keeping alive these native foods in my own life. So this is important, right? If her generation doesn't do it, then it can't be passed on. So we need education. You saw Chef Walter teaching kids as young as 5 and 6 years old, and all the way up to college students. We teach at IAIA and we do food classes here. So we need to reclaim these foods. We need to revitalize some of these cooking techniques, educate all levels of kids and teens and college. Culinary professionals, we need younger generation to be able to do this. Specialized workshops. You guys are taking part in this. You're learning. We need to have this sort of professional development and overall awareness, right? We have to educate. And then this emphasizes these health benefits of using this ancestral plant-based diet, which can improve health and wellness. So it's the role of both. Chef Walter as a male chef, me as a female chef, every gender, every age, every color, every person, every earth person, as some of our elders teach us, need to participate. So, and then we form these partnerships. They're called an Indigenous partnership. And this is really interesting because what's an Indigenous partnership? It's where you listen. Self-knowledge, remembering everybody has a background, right? Everybody is a useful part of this. Positions of power, right? Native communities, native tribes have their own governing system, as do we, listening and respecting these, respecting different cultural traditions. And also, the idea of intellectual property rights and privacy, not taking something without asking, ask permission, right? This is part of this partnership. And so you need time, reciprocity, right? Everybody gets to participate. And then everybody walks away benefit. We make sure that our Mother Earth and all of these things are going to be there, like Walter said, those that are yet to come. And so it's really important. And then we change history. Walter's changing history. I'm changing history. So we want to use these to strengthen and create, activate this knowledge, document this knowledge, Indigenous values, different than Western, right? Transition from only Western to Western and Native. Use teaching methods. Food is medicine, like Chef Walter said. Strengthen partnerships with communities and people, tribes, states, the whole USA, and then larger in the world, right? That's the message. And so we identify these resources and we realize that the connection, hands, we love our hands. That's how we prepare the food. That's how we grow the food. This is important. This is how it's passed on. You want to say something here, Wal, about the use of the hands and passing on these traditions?
Well, today, the way I look at it is always start here, this new native. Maybe for some people will say, well, it's coming. But the way I look at it, it's here now. It's a new native is the way how kids will look at things about food. And we start beginning to teach other younger generation. I think that's the important thing. The way our give back is that's what we do. We give back what we learn. And our people always tell us, if you learn something, you educate yourself with something good, give back to your people. Give back. And this is our give back. And it's being healthier way of looking, and just something that the new wave that came in again, just another wave that came in. There's a wave that came in that we came across. Or people that they used to eat way back in the past. Now, what they left behind, everything happened. It happened. We can't go back to change. All we can do is, how can we make it work? Is coming together, and the food doesn't see colors the way I look at it. Everybody gets to eat that food. When you're hungry, you'll eat. That's very sacred. And respecting the animals and the plants, and thank for all the farmers, the people that raise the animals and the plant. That they do that. And just something that it's very important that we have to keep our keep this going.
Yeah.
That's where.
So, and we've dedicated our life to this. You're welcome to do a screenshot of this, to reach out to us, contact us. We are available to help all people, how you can get involved, what you can do. So feel free to do that. And I think what we're going to do now is open it up to some questions and go from there. And I think, Chef Walter and I, we've really enjoyed this and enjoyed being a part of this educational program today.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Frank and Chef Whitewater, for telling us about these incredible ancestral foods and the importance of sharing it all and giving back. How about a few questions? Dr. Frank, how did you come to the title, Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky?
So that's a really good story. We were going to call it the Magic 8, and then the publishers felt like nobody's going to know what we're talking about. So we have to come up with something. So we really thought about this idea of these seeds, right? The corn seeds and the bean seeds and the chilies, that they grow into something, and that goes to the plate. But without the soil and the sky, without Mother Earth and Father Sky, we wouldn't have this. So the title sort of came together based on this. Also, this was a phrase that's used at an organization, a Native-led organization called the Cultural Conservancy that both of us work with. It's based in the Bay Area, although they do a lot here in the Southwest. And Walter and I have always been a part of this and perpetuating foodways and distributing food. So it was an evolutionary process, but we really are happy with the title now that it's here. But we did struggle a little to get there, let's say.
Thank you. Chef Walter, the knowledge and skill to work with these magical 8 foods was passed down in your own Dene Navajo family for generations. How did the women and men carry and share those stories?
Well, the way different tribes are all different. The way I came across is mostly the men did the hunting, and harvesting and all that, and the women did all the cooking, and just something that when you grow up with in that way, but later, as you grow up, you're growing and you see a man cooking at a ceremony, making bread with all these ladies, everybody was just laughing away. I think that really struck me to where, wow, there's something different I haven't seen before. And then the years go by again, then you go to see your buddies, sleep over. But the father makes this food early in the morning. He gave me a tea, and it's a herbal tea that he shared with me. And I thought that was like, wow, this is something different. From that on, I think I just kind of like sneak into helping out with my grandma and just trying to start learning about this, how the elders prepare the food of traditional food, and just something that I picked up just by watching and asking a little part of a question that's something that I grew up with, and it's important that we carry on the message. And there's something that I picked up, not something that I thought would be a professional chef in the future. It was not about that, just something that caught me, and I took on that road, and just something that it stays with me.
Thank you. And Chef Whitewater, during your international journeys, were you able to meet, work, and share with Indigenous peoples in Europe and Russia?
That's a hard question. And it's just something that, I don't know, for me, everything I do is just come natural. Just something that I just interact with. Food is, that changes you right there at that moment. Food is just something that it just become an art, and it doesn't matter what nationality that you are. It's just something that everybody just comes in a circle, like, to me, and just something that I don't think about. Oh, you're this this nation or whatever it is. I just get down to, and I always watch other people how they do things. I think that's the most important thing that makes me, comfortable right away, and just something that I don't look at it on the outside. I don't analyze it or anything like that. And I don't know. For me, it works different. For me, I just do it right there, and just it becomes what it is. But it comes together.
Dr. Frank, can you explain decolonizing and de-indigenizing?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about TEK, which is traditional ecological knowledge, the passing down of information from elders over time, which is very, very important in all cultures. Every culture in the world has TEK. But, the term decolonizing to me represents undoing. And I don't think we can undo history. I don't think we can get rid of. So I like to use the term re-indigenize, because I'm speaking to all of you in English. So we can safely say that the English had a profound effect on the United States. If we were in Mexico, we might be speaking Spanish. or the Spanish had a profound effect on countries to the south. Or we might be in parts of Canada speaking French. And so we could safely say that the French had their impact there. So rather than undo, which we can't because it really happened, it's real, history did happen, as painful as some of the history might be. But what we can do is re-indigenize, reintroduce, revitalize, reinvigorate. And for me and for Chef Walter, I think this is really important. This is important work. We want to re-indigenize so that that younger generation can perpetuate and pass on that Indigenous knowledge.
As you both know, this lecture is pre-recorded, so our audience is not able to ask you questions in real time. Can audience members reach out to you at your website if they have a question? redmesacuisine.com.
Absolutely. We can field some questions if anyone in your audience had those. You can contact us through the website or that slide that I showed if you took a screenshot of that. But a good email is redmesacuisine@gmail.com. And you can reach out to either Chef Walter or myself, and we'll do our best. Sometimes we get busy and we don't reply right away, so have patience. But yeah, we would be happy to educate and try and field anything that we can.
Well, thank you very much. Do either one of you have any final comments before we wrap up today?
So I'll say a couple of words, and then maybe you will too, Chef Walter. Chef Walter said, this information, it belongs to the elders. We don't own it. We're just like the messengers. We're the people that help to introduce it and pass it on. But it belongs to those ancestors that made it possible in all our traditions so that we could live in a good way. And so we really want to honor them. We really want to make sure that people understand that this is wisdom, this is knowledge, this is a form of science that is passed down. And we want to make sure that it lives and carries on. And we can't do this alone. It has to take all the colors of the people and all the peoples of the earth. We call ourselves earth people or earth citizens. Everyone needs to play a role, because if we don't, and we don't have our Mother Earth, it doesn't matter what color, what nationality, what age you are, there's no way to perpetuate health and wellness for all of us. So we really invite everybody to participate and everybody to take part in being a steward and being a caretaker of this information, passing it on and making sure we have a clean earth and food for future generations.
Well, for me, it's like being as a native, I come from more like natural, that as the word is, and what I when you live it, it's different, And then when you're going into Western world of way of life, cooking, and for me, where I stand is mostly I cook food and I taste it, and and utilize how it's going to look or how it's going to taste, and just something that that is my area, for me, that I create how it's going to look, how it's going to taste, and share with others how can that food can be used in a good way, and just something that there's stories, there's songs, there's other things that comes with it. I didn't know until I start cooking native food. And there's other protocols that you have to go by, and what you give back even to the animals to get to eat, the leftovers. And something that I learned, and just something that the way grandma and grandpa and what they knew and what they, I ran with it. It was just something that it's not wasn't my calling of being, but just it grew in me, and just I became part of this way of life, and going back to my own native way. I may learn from other different native people, and that's the way they do it, and then combining those two together and make it work. And just something that I just wanted to share that knowledge that's well, like I said, it's not something that's mine, that's been shared, a gift to me, and just something that I want to continue, and the door is open. And everybody, whoever that is welcome to my campfire and sit down and eat with me and tell a story. That's my calling. It's something that I believe in. Food is our medicine. Here's it. That's something I believe.
Thank you again, Dr. Lois Ellen Frank and Chef Walter Whitewater. This was most interesting and very inspiring. For our audience, in closing, a reminder to visit our website at friendsofhistorynm.org, where you can rewatch this lecture and other Friends of History lectures covering a wide range of topics about New Mexico and Southwestern history. Click on the lecture series link at the top of that page, then go to past lectures to see the list. If you wish to learn more about our upcoming lectures or more broadly about the Friends of History, we encourage you to join our mailing list by emailing us at nmhmfriendsofhistory@gmail.com. Finally, we request you consider making a donation to Friends of History through our webpage so that the Friends of History can continue to support programs at the New Mexico History Museum. And thank you to all of you who have been contributing to Friends of History over the last several years. We look forward to seeing you all in the months ahead. Thank you, and goodbye for now.